property, could it be affordable housing, which is, if we did move to a location, let's say downtown, I would strongly advocate for us doing an adaptive reuse to have that become affordable housing.
What does affordable housing mean to you?
Well, it means housing that would be affordable to our lower and middle income residents.
Well, what is that? Like, what
Well,
that income?
Well, I'm never up on exact dollar amount, but it says, you know, that you shouldn't pay more than 30% of your income for your housing. I mean, that's what the I think official definition of affordable is, that you pay 30% of your income for housing, and then you have the rest of your income for food and education and all the other things that you need to.
Yeah, because we hear affordable housing, we're gonna, you know, we just got to talking about gentrification, so.
Is that a horrible, complicated issue? Oh my gosh.
It's very complicated.
Yeah.
So, you know, people,
Yeah.
especially in the Fifth Ward, are feeling like
Sure.
the Fifth Ward is already gentrified, like they don't even know their neighbors anymore. So now, you know, Alderperson Eleanor Revelle is like, we're gonna build affordable housing, and people are like, for who?
Well, I think Councilmember Burns is saying what we just need is more housing, period. And so it's not to displace people who are currently there, but just to add more housing units. We just have tremendous need in the whole country, not just in Evanston. So I think what he's, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think he's indicating that we need more housing units, period, and he would like to see them be affordable.
What's affordable to you? In Evanston, is, I mean, you got the
Sure.
rich, seriously rich?
Sure.
Or,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I'm curious because one of the largest issues I would think that's been in your ward recently, especially, has been the Ryan Field development. And there was a lot, there's a long period where community members led protests, they had community discussions, they had conversations with elected officials, into land use commission, and ultimately, I know that you were in a position where it's okay, do we really want to have that commercial rezoning and having those questions? I'm here to ask those questions on the dais. What do you think is the most effective way for those community members to really engage elected officials and what medium? Because I know that there are some folks that come to public comment, you really only get 30 minutes, 30 seconds, not 30 minutes. 30 minutes would be quite the long session, but 30 seconds to a minute really to say what you would like. So what are some ways that you think are those good ways to really engage elected officials to let them know what their viewpoints are?
Well, I would say don't wait until it's coming to city council and it's going to be voted on. Let your council member know what you think early on. I mean, we get lots of emails, and I certainly read them all, and we have board meetings and opportunity to hear from residents that way as well. So I know it's very frustrating to come to city council and only get 30 seconds or maybe even a minute to make your statement, but if you've talked to us earlier, send us your concerns in an email or met with us, individually. We meet with residents just informally as well. So it's the other reason to talk to us early on is you'll have a better chance of influencing our thinking if you just tell us what you think early on rather than once we finally made up our mind. So that's.
Revelle, do y'all meet, the aldermen, do y'all meet first and like, we're gonna vote this and then?
No, we're not allowed to do that. We certainly talk, but we don't meet. Yeah, if we can't have more than 3 of us in the room at the same time. But certainly, I won't say that we don't talk, but obviously we talk.
Do you I don't expect you to really answer that question, sorry.
Yeah, but it's not in any kind of official, organized kind of way. I mean, I certainly talked to my colleagues and I said, both of this concert business, but not that they all listen to me.
We thank you for listening.
So I mean, I tried to,
the
yeah, so
campaign.
we lobby each other, is I guess the best way to describe what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, politics is not my stronger suit.
Okay.
But, you know, we early on with the show, we discussed about how it was broadcast that there were some meetings, like you said, that were supposedly took place that we, you know, because we had no idea that this was going on. And our audience, both in-house and online, they positively discussed that we had no idea that this was going on. You know, so it's a matter of educating our audience about the, you know, having the different hosts that we do. But the, you know, the 909 Davis, you know, the more I read about it, I'm thinking, I'm not sure this is such a good idea. But it's, you know, I mean, the Evanston council has to do what's best for Evanston, hopefully.
Well, we try.
Yeah.
And I know there are disagreements with the decisions we make. And we certainly aren't unanimous a lot of the time either, so.
Well, I mean, I understand the constituents, they don't always know all the parameters of the items of discussion on a single issue. And they, you know, and hopefully obviously we're getting a larger audience. So people are starting to understand that we're here to help them understand about engaging in the community activities so that we can, you know, just because I'm from Chicago doesn't mean I don't understand about Evanston. But it's, yeah, I mean, it's, sometimes it is mind-blowing, you know, the more involved and, you know, how far you have to delve into the understanding of what the issue is. And, you know, like I told Representative Ford that, you know, I totally, you know, and this is again another case. You're reading between the lines and learning to do the research and you think for yourself, you know, so that you can broadcast or share with other people what you think. You know, do you recommend we do this or do we do this? You know, and not everybody is of that awakening, I guess is one way to put it.
No, I mean, it takes a tremendous amount of time for any resident to keep abreast with, let's just say, a small handful of the issues that come to the city council. I mean, our packets every 2 weeks are really enormous. And we, you know, we will have engaged in this particular issue for many, many weeks, and the resident may only hear about it halfway through all that, and so there's a big catch-up time for the residents as well. So I know, I mean, it's being a well-informed, engaged resident is a lot of work. So
but people need to do it because if they want to be involved, if they want to, it's making an investment in the community. Absolutely.
Exactly, yeah. You know, and so, I mean, the very basic things are making sure you get your council members' newsletters, so you hear about the ward meetings, and you go to the ward meetings where you have a chance to hear about issues in depth and ask questions and, you know, start engaging in the back and forth about a particular issue. So that's, and then, you know, belonging to like a neighborhood association where the neighbors all kind of follow an issue and help you stay up to date and ready to speak your voice.
Absolutely.
Well, no, the Ryan Stadium, we're really trying to be a voice for the community. I think that's the most community engagement I have seen in years.
It was huge, right? It was just constant, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I wish people would come out for affordable housing like that. Come out for, you know, all these other issues we have that impact all of us. But they came out for that Ryan Stadium.
Yeah, well, yeah. But it was a lot of, it's in my backyard, and so I want to stand up for my backyard, so it was a different kind of issue. But speaking of affordable housing, so just to wrap up the Civic Center thing, so we have to make a big decision, not only about the Civic Center, but the police and fire headquarters. We need to have a completely brand new police and fire headquarters. That building is 70 years old and totally inadequate to today's policing methods and everything. So that's going to be a giant decision. And the other big initiative going on right now is the rewrite of our comprehensive plan and our zoning code, which in my view is, we need to get that right as a way to support more affordable housing. I mean, I think that's probably the number one, making sure our zoning ordinance is not an obstacle to creating affordable housing, I think for me is one of the biggest goals in the rewrite of the zoning code. So that, and so there are opportunities right this minute, well not this minute, but, to contribute your thoughts and respond to the development of the new comprehensive plan and the zoning code. So we finished phase 1. We're starting phase 2, which means I think hearing from the consultants are going to tell us what they heard us say in phase 1. So there'll be an opportunity for you all to say, yes, you got it right, or no, you missed something. So, and then it's a 5-phase project. So there'll be several opportunities for residents to make sure they're getting it right. And so the affordable housing is, I mean, it's going to be really key to supporting more affordable housing in Evanston.
Are all the council members on the same page with that, or are there certain members we need to go talk to? Engage.
That's an issue where we haven't really started talking to each other yet. But I mean, to the extent that we've only talked about affordable housing, is I think quite a few council members would say one obstacle to creating more housing in general, but affordable housing in particular, is the single-family districts that don't allow more than single-family homes. So that we need to allow I think we need to allow increased density in R1 and R2 zones, like, one is have a townhouse on that block. I'm not talking moving into R1 district and putting up a giant apartment building, but certainly allowing, a bit more housing in those areas would be a way to get more housing units and therefore more affordable housing.
My good friend sitting out there, he's always looking at these one-level businesses in Evanston. He was like, we could be building affordable housing on top of all these businesses around Evanston. Yeah. It's like wasted space and all that wasted space with parking spaces.
Right, yeah. Well, there were 2 new proposed developments mentioned just today, I think, today or yesterday in Evanston now, I think. One on Custer and one on Dempster. And they are that idea of, so the retail on the ground floor and apartments, like 2 or 3 stories of apartments above. So I agree, that'd be a great way to kind of infill with some more housing. So those, and I think those kinds of developments are easier to get approval than the giant apartment buildings downtown. So, yeah.
And I think that's something that scares people when they hear high density, especially here in Evanston. When people think, oh, density, they think, okay, we're going to have skyscrapers in the middle of downtown. And I mean, there are ways that we can create higher density buildings in Evanston that fit the neighborhood, and the character still stays the same. And we increase the amount of affordable units that we do have here in Evanston, because we don't have enough. We only have so much space here in Evanston. And one of the ways that you can make, Evanston more affordable for everyone is that you grow the tax base. And it's like if you have more people here, then it is more affordable for everyone. But I do think it's also interesting too, because I've seen this a couple times too, where discussions, even where say for example when the Wesley apartments, right, and discussing what happens next to the property. And I've heard folks talking about the idea of, okay, we can make these affordable condominiums. And when I hear that, I often see across the nation is that it is more expensive right now to own a home than it is to rent. And that's why we see a lot of folks that decide to rent, because you don't have to, that maintenance is covered by by that property owner. I don't like to use the word landlord too much. I think it's antiquated. Yeah. Oh, 100%. So that's where we see, that's an option. Are there ways that the city of Evanston can really incentivize developers to say, okay, instead of building these massive condominiums that, are kind of labeled as luxury, are there ways that we can emphasize more on some of these apartment units, or doing mix of both? Are there ways that the city can
Mix
do
of
that?
both, that's important.
Yeah.
It could be a mix.
Sure, yeah. Well, I think the market suggests that developers prefer at this point building rental rather than condos. And so the new development that went up on Main Street, those are rentals. And then the two ones that I just mentioned are going to be rentals also. So incentivizing, I mean, the best way the city can incentivize or have a say in what happens is if we own the property. So, for example, we own the underutilized parking lot on South Boulevard, and that's where 100% affordable development's going to go in. And we could when we did the RFP, we said we wanted to be affordable. We wanted to have a mix of sizes so that families can find a place to live, and we wanted to be super sustainable. So it's got and we could say that because we own the property.
I wanted to let the audience get in a few questions before we let you go. Any questions? Oh.
A question in the back first.
So I have some questions about affordability, because I think that a lot of times we're talking about affordability and we address things that are at 80 to 120% AMI, area median income, and they forget about people who are lower than that. Developers, they only put in what it is that is financially beneficial for them. But we need housing for low-income people that stays affordable until perpetuity. Because, a lot of times I heard people talking about the new container homes, and they were saying that those were affordable. But actually they're attainable, because they're $400,000. You have to come up with like $80,000 to put down, and you're looking at a $3,000+ a month. And so that's attainable for who? It's the biggest thing. And my last thing was, Wesley, is one of the things I've been working on is that, there's a consolidated plan. It's in the CDBG, Community Development Block Area, and it says that the city is supposed to inspect those properties every 3 years, and that didn't happen. I'm trying to see where the disconnect was. And just from an equity standpoint, I feel like, the fact that this black neighborhood where there were mostly black people, and to get the record clear, they lived there in that community as a community because that's where they could afford to live. And with the changing demographics, we're displacing lots of people. But they weren't even afforded the opportunity to, we were supposed to be using community development block grant funds to repair the buildings or keep them habitable. And that never happened. And I'm just trying to see, from your perspective, why didn't, we adhere to, the consolidated plan that was put in place?
Right. So we were following the idea of, so they did an inspection, I'm not sure, get my years exactly right, 2017. And then, anyway, so we were saying, if you pass inspection or with just a couple of minor corrections that are needed, then the next inspection will be 5 years later.
I would quickly say as a follow-up, because I know that we've been focused a lot on community engagement, what would you suggest is the proper recourse for community members to say, how should they be coming to committee meetings? Should they be coming to city council? Should they be sitting with certain city council members and say that, we would like to be, we would like to see a specific line item in a budget that includes more funding towards, inspections and having more inspectors. We want to see dedicated funding to having that emergency repair fund so the city can say, okay, property owner, that you have X amount of units that are affordable and you aren't able to maintain the building currently right now, we can assist you in the short run, but you need to provide a plan for us long term. What should community members do to engage officials?
Yeah, so I believe the Housing and Community Development Committee is going to be discussing the whole inspections situation. We have many things on our agenda, so it'll probably not be in a couple of months, but the idea is to get a better handle on understanding what is our current inspections program, what do we need to make it, how many more staff do we need, how are we doing in getting that database system going so that we can have more regular, we can follow problem buildings more consistently. So that isn't normally something that's on the HCDC agenda, but it's something that we talked about.
You want to just get one more and then we have to let her go. We have two other things, and guess what? That's why we're here. That's why we're here. And, we'll talk.
I did have one quick question. You chair the Housing Community Development Committee.
Yeah.
Due to lack of transparency, the Wesley tenants had no idea what was happening. We got blindsided, we were lost. We petitioned your committee on 3, 4, 5 different occasions you put on your agenda. For some reason, we were not. I'm not going to sit here in front of this forum and ask you why not. I will say this. We're going to fight to make sure this does not happen to another community. Should something like this happen again, who should we go to as far as a committee to get the help that we need to make sure that these small, self-contained, self-sustained communities are not disbanded and scattered again?
Well, I mean, for the Wesley apartments, we had a whole bunch of different staff members and the council member from the board working with residents to try to address the situation. So
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm listening to what you're saying. And I'll tell you what I told our alderman. If you come to me and tell me that you're hungry, I say, let me make you a plate. And I serve you a plate. Not food on it, just a plate. Did I feed you? Do you want seconds? What was offered to us was inadequate. It's still inadequate. We can be homeless in 3 months, or we can be homeless in 24 months because we have never been given a straight answer as to what the future is of the Wesley tenants. So I ask again, if we are not going to come to your committee for help, what committee should we go to?
how about human services?
Well, Human Services is the one who's giving us empty plates.
Human services?
Human Services is the one who's giving us empty plates.
No, we have good human services. There's a Hercules.
Oh, there's a committee for Human Services?
Yes,
She's saying go to human
The Human
services.
Services Committee. I mean, I'm hoping that once we have this discussion about the inspection system and we, put in place improvements so we don't have that happening again.
But that's our fight. We do not want this happening again.
Some of the people that are out there right now, it's just like they're displaced because of fear. The alderman in the 5th Ward put some where he wants to put them. They're not happy. This man right here is someplace. He's walking all over town trying to find a place where a vet person can be, and he himself is this place. Where are the other people going? One lady is in with all her stuff boarded up. What is the city doing about this? That's the type of hearing you need to hear about. Don't make it look all clean and pretty out there, because it's not.
And truly what I do think too is that this is a very...
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
thank you both. very exhaustive issue. Obviously, we're looking at, multiple different facets, multiple different systems that fail. And I mean, I firmly think that we should have a whole show that's dedicated to talking about housing. And I know that we've had a couple events that I can see some folks in the audience that were part of some of the housing events that we've had in Evanston. But I think we truly do need to continue to have those conversations and kind of map out, and even as advocates, as community members, map out and bring a presentation forward to our elected officials, to multiple committees, whether it's the housing and community development or human services, and say that, look, this is what we have experienced as Evanston residents, and bring those tenants in who have faced these housing issues and this neglect, and saying that this is our lived experience. Here's what we need from the city of Evanston going forward to ensure that this doesn't happen to anybody that looks like me, that rents like me, anywhere in the city going forward.
Go anyplace else.
Yes, any place else. So I mean, I'd love to, again, I think we need, because we're running low on time, we've got, but we do have,
Very briefly, please, let's not use the word inconvenience. We have not been inconvenienced. We've been way beyond inconvenience. My check is late. My dinner is cold. I'm inconvenienced. I have been displaced. My community has been scattered. I am far beyond inconvenience. And if I hear Mr. Brown continue to call us inconvenience, I'm sorry, burns. If I hear Mr. Brown continue to say that we have been inconvenienced, I will make a scene at City Council. You folks have a great day. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you, Alderperson Revelle. I must say, your working on the council, soft spoken as you are, you do have something to say, and we do appreciate all that you do. And you're coming here. Now, we didn't beat you up, did we? Did we bite you? We appreciate you. Thank you.
Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast.